live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. And today, people, as you're probably well aware, here in the good old US of A, this is Memorial Day. It's a day of a lot of barbecuing. A lot of people are having, hey, squirrel. A lot of people are doing hot dogs and hamburgers and such. And it occurs to me that, they keep stats on all of the holidays. Something that we're big into stats. We're kind of one of those stat societies, and they'll tell you exactly how much money gets spent on Halloween, and they'll tell you how much money gets spent on Mother's Day and Father's Day and all of that. But it occurs to me that this is the most expensive holiday of the year here in our country, and it's not a matter of the amount of money that people have spent on hot dogs, hamburgers, and buns and such. But it's that when people take the time to enjoy those hot dogs, hamburgers, and buns and such, there were people out there who paid unbelievable amounts so that we could have this holiday. And you know what? I know that we are we're a channel that broadcasts to the entire world. And not to beat on our chest and talk about our country, but you know what? This holiday and the sacrifices made by people in this country have affected the entire world in a very large way. There are people whose names we will never know, and families that lost people will never know. And those stories, like so much else in history, get lost to time. And if it were not for people who selflessly signed up knowing full well what they were going into, I wouldn't be able to put on this hat, which, by the way, is not military. We've had a few idiots since we started this that took umbrage with my military hat. This is a non-military hat, but the people who sacrifice their lives, and literally the ultimate sacrifice, so that we can do whatever it is we want to do. Like running a channel like this. And it's we from time to time we'll get on a kick here on the lifeboat where we take time to thank veterans, and we'll do it for a few days, and then we sort of lose sight of it for a while until something else comes up. But to all who have served, and to all who have lost loved ones who have served, this day is a reminder that freedom is so far from free. It is something that unfortunately is paid for in blood, and that's just the way that it goes. But there's a really great movie, Saving Private Ryan. If you've never seen that film, it's worthy of watching. And when that film was done being shot, they screened it in Houston, Texas. Not exactly sure why. There were a couple of places around the country, but that was one of them. And they screened it for veterans. They invited people who had survived World War II and were still alive to watch the screening of the film. And the number of veterans who got up and walked out of the theater in the first few minutes, I think at first they were terrified that maybe this movie wasn't what they hoped for. And after a little bit more, research was done, and they had an opportunity to talk to some of the people that had left, they realized that it was perfect, is what it was. The first opening scenes of that movie are so real that those who have been there, and the people that were on Omaha Beach, and that were part of the D-Day invasion in Normandy, it was like reliving it. It was so real and so it's an attack on your senses. It's to this day it holds up beautifully. But to see it in a theater with the surround sound and all of the effects that brings to you that you don't get at the house, and the bombs going off and all of that, and just how intense that was, and how those boys got off of those boats knowing full well that their odds of getting to the other side of that beach were nil, right? There was no illusions among anybody there. They knew that the likelihood was really, really not good that they were ever going to leave that beach. And that kind of sacrifice is something that I think we've lost, unfortunately. The farther you get away from anything, we talk about it with sobriety, the farther away you get from anything, the horror fades. And along with that, there's a lack of respect, unfortunately, I think, for the things that people did for us. But I bring up that film because if you're familiar with the plot line of the film, it follows a platoon of guys who are trying to find one individual. And the reason they're trying to find him is because all of his brothers have already been killed. And the US government had decided that they weren't going to tell this mother that she lost every single one of her children. They were going out to save just one. And the sacrifice that these guys go through to go save one man is, nothing shy of just heroic and amazing and heart-wrenching. But at the very end of it, one of the lead characters, who is breathing his last, says to the other main character, "Earn this. Earn it." All of the people who sacrificed the way that they did, we owe all of them a debt that there truthfully is no way to repay, right? No matter what we do, there is no way to earn this. But I'll tell you a way that you can really not earn it, right? You want a way to not earn it? Walk through this life wasted. Walk through this life wasted. Get high every day. Get drunk every day. And with all due respect, it's like pissing on the people who's sacrificed their life so that we could act like jackasses. And I realize that it is a daunting task to try to get sober. I don't make it anything less than it is, because I did it. I'm speaking from authority, because my addiction was pretty ugly. And it was a very difficult thing. And it is still a difficult thing. My life right now is ideal, but there are still days that every minute of that day is a challenge because of mistakes that I've made in the past. But I feel especially on days like this, it's one more why. On that list that I've made of whys, it's a damn good one. It really is. There is a part of me that will, I don't know, and maybe this is, I'm not trying to offend anyone, I assure you, but maybe this is a guy thing, I don't know. But, as a man, when you meet guys who went and served and gave it all, and, lost friends and were there in the middle of it, and lived with that trauma, it always gives me a hollow feeling like like I didn't do enough. Like there was so much of my life. There were so many decades of my life that I wasted. I know we have a rule on language here, but I pissed it away. There's just no other way to say it. And that being said, there's no way to undo that, people. There really isn't, right? The things that we did while we were wasted, the time that we wasted while we were high, that's time we can't get back, right? We can't. But you can draw a line in the sand and say, from this day forward, not just for me and not just for my family and all of the people that really ought to slap you in the face when you start thinking of, who do I owe this to other than me? There are people that literally should slap you in the face, metaphorically. I am not going to screw up for my daughter. I am not going to screw up for my son, right? I'm not going to screw up for the memory of my father. But those people we don't know, who went out there and gave the best parts of their life, gave limb, gave, their all, so that I could go and rip off stores and use the money to buy heroin. Honestly, that's what I did with their sacrifice for 3.5 decades. How bad does that suck? I'm not picking on any of you people. I'm talking about me. But for 3.5 decades as a free human being on this planet, I took freedom that was earned through the blood of people I never met, and I became a thief and a junkie. If you need another why, Lord knows why you might, but if you need another why, when you're putting ketchup and mustard on a hot dog this weekend and celebrating the fact that we're free, right? Looking down the street and seeing flags, which these days I realize is considered a symbol of hate, but flags, which are usually flown on this weekend to remind us of the sacrifice of those people. When you see those flags, think about that. Think about what we're doing with their sacrifice. I'm not suggesting that you need to solve world peace, right? I'm not suggesting that you need to start a charity, or you need to do something to try to get everyone else on the planet sober. Nothing like that. But for the love of God, let's not waste the sacrifice of the people that gave us the freedom to act like jackasses or to act like sober people living their best life. Because I think that's a pretty big deal. I really do. And I know that this is a Memorial Day show, right? And I don't want it to be all downer. But there's a couple of other things that I think we got to talk about that may not be a ton of fun, but they got to be said. We've had a hell of a couple of weeks here, right? There's a shooting in Buffalo where a man took a rifle and went and killed people for hate. No other reason, just hate. And then, of course, we all know the one that took place recently in Texas. But I was doing a little research on those two events, and there are some things that really jumped out at me, and I think that they need to be said because I think it bears mentioning on the lifeboat, because these are things that are glaring. There's a lot that those two had in common. They were both 18 years old, right? Both of them were 18. Both of them were literally overwhelmed with hate. Both had been viciously teased growing up, bullied. And both of them had not spoken to their fathers in the previous 5 years. It's pretty tough, isn't it? Neither of them had had any interaction at all, at any level, with their dad in the previous 5 years. And the people on the planet will wring their hands and go, how do these things happen? They seem pretty freaking obvious to me. Maybe it's just me. But I'll tell you something. When I talk about earning it, right? As I said, you don't have to start a charity. You don't have to, but being a dad would be pretty high on the list of things that you could do to earn the freedom that other people have bought us, right? There is something really, really important about being a father. And it has amazing effects on kids. One of the things that I am most ashamed about when I look in the rearview mirror is that heroin was more important to me than my children. Truthfully, there's not much that brings more shame when I concentrate on it than that. But I'll tell you something, there's not much that brings me more pride than the fact that I am viciously involved in my children's lives today. There is no chance on this planet that my kids are going to say, I haven't had any contact with my father in the last 5 days, right? I'm never going to let that happen. Never again. It's not something that's going to happen. And I think that earning it should take on a new meaning, people. I think it really should, right? Maybe the sobriety thing is bigger than just you. We concentrate on us a lot when we talk about sobriety. And I think that that's important. I really do. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but how many times a week do we have to hear, well, you got to do it for yourself, right? It only works if you do it for yourself. I'll tell you something, man, you better start doing it for some other people. Let the rest of the rehab community crap all over me for that. But you got to do it for other people. You really do. That's a power greater than yourself, whether you realize it or not. When you start taking responsibility for your children, when you start taking responsibility for your loved ones, and you start saying, I'm not going to get high ever again because I owe it to them. That had a real effect on me. You do what you do, but that had a real effect on me. And I can tell you for a stone cold fact, it had a huge effect on my bobbleheaded partner. When we come here, we can't tell everybody the magic bullet for anything. We're not gurus. We're not geniuses. We're not doctors. We come here and we tell you what worked for us because we feel like if it worked for us, it's possible that it can work for anyone. I mean, that's the basis of this entire thing that we do here, right? If two addicted people like my partner and I were able to get clean and become dads, right? Good ones. I'm sorry. I have no problem whatsoever in saying that. I am pretty proud of the father I am today. And if you've watched The Lifeboat for any length of time, right? I would say that if it's not every show, it's every other show. You hear me go, oh, for no apparent reason, right? Because when I say on the other side of the glass is my bobbleheaded partner, I'm looking at him right now, right? I'm not looking at you guys, right? And I'm not looking at a picture of me. The way my camera is set up, it's a very large screen, but I look at Mark. It's very much like I'm in a studio, and it's very much like he's on the other side of the glass, which is why that phrase started back in the day. But if it's not every show, it's every other show where, his daughter will come in and give him a hug, while we're doing this. And that's the awe that you hear. And it's wonderful to see my partner and being a dad, and being one who cares. And there are times, people, that I come here and I say, we're going old school today, right? 9 out of 10 times, if I'm going old school, it's because Mark's being a dad, right? Now, I don't think that would have been the same thing 11 years ago. I don't think that would have been much of an issue. And we say you don't dwell on the past, because you don't. Dwelling on the past will drag you down. Forgetting it is a friggin' sin. I'm not going to sit and spend, the next 6 months concentrating on what a crap father I was for decades. But I'm never going to forget what a crap father I was for decades. It's not something I'm ever going to allow myself to forget. I know it gets confusing, but sometimes the phrase owning your past is something that, it gets bantied around and it gets debated and sort of dissected. What exactly does it mean? And does that mean that, you have to share it with others? Or does it mean that what it means is that you're not going to forget it, and you're not going to make light of it, and you're not going to make excuses for it, right? For 3.5 decades, I wasted the freedom that other people gave me. That's owning my past. You understand? Now, I don't need to wear a t-shirt that says I was a loser in order to own my past. I don't need to introduce myself with, boy, there was a long time there where I would spend my kids' lunch money on dope, right? That's not anything but I need to be aware of the fact that I was that guy. That's what owning your past is. And you don't own your past by saying, I used to spend my kids' money on, lunch money on dope. And let me give you 6 good reasons why I did. That's not owning your past, right? Woe is me. I was treated so badly for so long by so many that I had no other option than to become a drug addict. Now, I'll own it. Doesn't work like that, right? Owning it means taking responsibilities for the things that you've done in your life that you could have done differently. And then changing it, right? Owning your past, you don't own your present, right? You celebrate your victories. We say you own your past and you celebrate your victories, because the day that you put down the bottle, or the day that you put down the pill bottle or the needle or the straw or the pipe, the day you put that down, those small victories start, right? And I know I annoy the hell out of you with some of the things that I talk about over and over again, but making your bed's a victory. You don't think so? But you go 30 years without giving a crap if you even sleep on a bed, right? No problem whatsoever passing out in the front seat of the car or laying on the floor of the living room or the kitchen or wherever the heroin did enough of what it does to bring you to final nod out. Well, then getting up in the morning in a bed is an accomplishment. Making it again, saying, I'm going to start my day by making this happen. That's an accomplishment. It's Memorial Day. This is a day, right? And it ought to be a freaking week, right? But it is a day that we celebrate people who sacrificed, not just for those around them, but for those they were never going to meet. We talk on this channel about what one sober person does to the world, right? You say to yourself, I'm going to do this for me, right? I know that's what they tell us, right? You got to do it for you. Do you have any idea the number of people you're going to change because of your decision to get sober? And I'll tell you something, people, it's a sacrifice. It is. We have become far more comfortable being sedated. We have become far more comfortable being intoxicated. That's who we are. That's why you're here. It's certainly why I'm here. To say, I'm never going to do that again means jumping the hell out of your comfort zone. It means changing yourself. And in the process of doing that, it means building relationships with, right? What did the great comment last night? Playgrounds and playmates, right? That's your comfort zone. You're going to get out of that comfort zone and you're going to find new playgrounds. You're going to find new playmates. And every day, right? Every single show, someone will say, I'm just not really comfortable, sharing or getting to know other people. Of course you're not. Your only friend has been a drug. Why in hell would you be comfortable making friends with something other than a drug? It's not comfortable. We're going to get out of our comfort zones, right? And I hate to just keep beating this drum, but God, it needs to be beat. You want to talk about getting out of a comfort zone? How about when a guy says, when this thing hits the beach, the front end of this is going to drop and you're going to run off into the direction of 50 caliber machine gun fire. Make no mistake, 6 or 7 of you probably will not even make it out of the boat. You would think they would have had to put a gun on those people to force them out the boat. They didn't. Those people ran out of the boat for us. They ran out of the boat for us's that have yet to be born. Let's earn it. Let's earn it. For real. Let's not take any of that for granted. Let's not take the gift of the fact that we woke up this morning for granted. I don't care what your belief is in life. I don't care if you believe that we crawled from a puddle and evolved into this, or if there was natural design, or there was holy intervention, or anything you want to believe, right? Whatever that belief is, I assure you, your higher calling isn't in a bottle. It isn't. You have the opportunity to make a very small sacrifice, step outside your comfort zone, and do something fantastic for people who have yet to be born. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But think about this whole sobriety thing in chaos theory. I'm not tooting my horn. I'm not tooting Mark's horn. But we do get emails every week that say really lovely things about the boat and about how they would not be sober today if they had not found the boat. Now, if there's any truth to that, who knows? They may have gotten sober without us. They may, and by us, I mean all of you. But regardless, let's just play for a second and say, yeah, you know what? Really did happen that way. Well, then 2 generations from now, there will be people feeling the sacrifice of every crew member on this boat. Right? Think about that. That is a power so much greater than yourself. It really is. That is the opportunity to change the world. And one sober person can do that. If Mark did not get sober, there would not be a lifeboat. If I did not get sober, there would not be a lifeboat. And if all of you didn't show up here every night to support every new person that walks onto the deck of this boat, there wouldn't be a lifeboat. For real. That's huge, right? It's absolutely huge. So far, we've reached about 2,400 and some odd people that have heard the message that you don't have to live your life in slavery, that you literally can change who you are and become a better you. And we're 10 months old. Our promise is we're going to keep doing this, right? We're going to keep doing this. And the natural progression of anything done on the big red button is that they rarely shrink. If you continue to put out content, right, and don't act like an idiot, oh, believe it, you can shrink it. But usually there's something real stupid done in order to cause that to happen. If you keep putting out content and keep putting out a message that's consistent, they continue to grow, correct? Well, all of you have a pretty massive hand in that. I believe wholeheartedly that that's the kind of thing that I'm referring to when I say earn it. Get sober and change the world. We get trapped into this mindset of those people that came before us did heroic things because heroic things needed to be done right then. And we don't live in those times anymore. I want to tell you something. You know how many different ways there are to do heroic things? I know I give them a lot of credit, and there's a reason for that. But if you write 350 freaking letters to try to save somebody that you've never met from overdosing from a drug, right, that you don't do, that's pretty heroic, really heroic stuff. 7th, you're a beast. You're a beast. And if that ain't earning it, people, I don't know what is. That's the nature of what I'm talking about. If there's a takeaway from today, get that you got to do this for you and you alone crap out of your head. I'm sorry. I'll buck the system on this. I don't care. You got to want to get sober for the people you love. You got to want to get sober for the people that love you. And you got to want to get sober in a big way, if not more than one day a year, for people you never met. Right? For real. When you're chowing down that hamburger or that hot dog at the barbecue tonight, know that the people who died on those beaches probably would be a little butthurt to think that you need to get up and drink a 5th a day. I have a feeling that they wouldn't sleep well knowing that. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, you know what? Maybe it's me, right? But there is a really, really beautiful cemetery we have here in the US. And as far as the eye can see, there are white crosses on it. I mean, as far as the eye can see. We have a tomb there for the unknown soldier, right? And it's got this little flame that never goes out. And every one of those people gave their lives, in theory, so that we could all live the dream. And the dream ain't getting wasted and spending your entire life in a fog. That's not the dream. So again, do you have to do it for yourself? Well, it would be pretty ignorant to say no. But do you have to do it solely for yourself? Horse crap. I'm sorry, horse crap. Especially in the beginning, people. In the beginning, I got through a lot of days by going into my cell and picking up a picture of my daughter and staring at it. For real. Days where I just did not want to face one more day of hurting, physically hurting, not much spiritually, emotionally, that all came. But in the beginning, hurting physically. When you're on day 21 and you haven't slept more than 3 or 4 hours, I'm not important enough to get through a day. I promise you of doing that one more time. I would go in and I would hold that picture. I swear to God. And if that didn't get it done, I would cycle through them, right? I had a picture of my mom. I had a picture of my dad. I had a picture of my son, my daughter, and all of the people I loved. And I would shuffle them like cards. I would sit there and go through one right after the other because I knew how much of a dirtbag I was going to feel like if I set those down and then walked down the tier to get a ball of heroin, right? That just wasn't going to work. If you find something that keeps you sober, well, then to hell with all of the cliche about doing it on your own. If you find something that keeps you sober and it's your baby girl or your baby boy or the people on the boat, I say all the time, every single time somebody sends me an email and says, I let down the entire boat. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You let yourself down and you let down the people that love you. But the lifeboat doesn't demand perfection. The lifeboat doesn't demand sobriety. That's not who this crew is. We want it. We want nothing on this planet more than you to live your best life and be sober. But we're not going to crap on you if you stumble. You don't owe us an apology. You owe us truth, right? And you owe it to all of us, like you owe it to the people that died for us, to at least learn from your latest screw up, or my latest screw up, or Mark's latest screw up. There is such thing as a great relapse, right? If you understand, when it's all said and done, if you go, yeah, man, I relapsed. And you know what, man? Like 2 Thursdays ago is that when I think it happened. Yeah, I didn't get high until today, but like 2 Thursdays ago, I got off the rails. I remember it. This is what happened. I was talking to so-and-so, good relapse. Great freaking relapse, right? But if it just becomes a routine where I get sober for 4 days and then I get loaded, and then I don't bother to think about why I get loaded, and then I get sober for a day or two, and then I get loaded, and I don't think about why, then those are not good relapses. Doesn't mean you owe us any more or any less depending on it, but you owe yourself and you owe the people for whom you don't know their names to give it a real serious effort to live your best life. And you know what? You're not alone. You're not. There's a crew of people here that will bend over backwards to try to do anything within their power to help you. If you're brand new to the boat, have you ever wondered why? I mean, every once in a while, and Mark could probably, his memory's sometimes better than mine. It's been a few weeks, but from time to time, we get someone who goes, I just don't understand why any of you people would care. Like, we get those comments. The funny thing is, when that person gets sober, they'll never ask that question again. Honestly, they only ask that question while they're still in the life. Because once you get sober, that whole earning it thing starts to make a whole lot more sense to you, right? Man, I found this. I gotta show someone else how to do what I just did. It becomes an overwhelming feeling for most people, not everybody. And you know what? If it doesn't become an overwhelming feeling for you, I'm not, it doesn't make me angry at you. But for most people who get sober, you get this, I mean, like a weight that comes on you that says, I got to help at least one person get out of this. And for some of us, that feeling doesn't go away, right? There is a reason that, there's a lot of people in this country having hot dogs and hamburgers today, but at no point did my bobble-headed partner call me and say, are we taking today off? Right? There's a reason that we will continue to do this. And I don't know. I really think that this is, we will be here, brother. We want to be here on tough days. Yeah. Right. The level of, go ahead.
Yeah, it's amazing. You just said that because he literally just asked that right before you said that. He's
is that true?
Yeah. I just posted that up there right before you said that. But yeah, guys, listen. It's easy to be here on easy days, right? You know what I mean? But when do we really need the help? We need it on the tough days. And that's why, because we talk about this, and there, we even try to be here on Christmas Day. I think we were here on Christmas Day this year, weren't we?
We were, yeah.
Pretty
we
sure.
did Christmas.
And out of all the holidays, most people think that that's the most important one. It's the hardest one to get through, and they would be correct. On an average, but you really do make some good points there, and I think that most people here, judging by what people were talking about, agree with what you're saying. And there's a lot of ways to say what Tommy just said, guys. So it's not just down to one thing there, right? I mean, we're all saying it, just sometimes it comes out with different words. And it's just however you articulate it, and it is what it is. And we talk a lot about 2020 hindsight, right?
Yep.
That's a true thing. And again, it's a cliche, but it's not. It's a cliche for a reason. Because it is. It's one of the most powerful things that you can actually put into practice for yourself. You've recognized that this was a good thing by looking back on the bad thing. That's pretty much what it means. If you'd have known that back then, would you have made the same mistake? We hear that a lot too. No, you wouldn't have. You probably wouldn't have, right? But you can't go back and do anything about that. All you can do is do exactly what Jason's doing. Jason was in here, Tommy. I'm not sure if you've seen him. He said he's day one sober today, but he had to bounce out for his daughter, I think. So just didn't know if you've seen that chat or not. But, and it's a great thing, guys. We want to concentrate on that and moving forward, but at the same time, we have to pick out those pieces that will allow us to forge new tools for ourselves. It's just what it has to be.
Yeah.
It's not a whole lot of other, it's really not all. Again, people articulate this in different ways, but it all pretty much goes back to the same thing. And let me say this too real quick. Roxana, thank you for your son's service. He's in the service, Tommy. I posted it up there, but
God bless.
Yeah. Guys, and I know Memorial Day, everybody is typically giving, remembering things and all that stuff. But listen, like what Tommy said a minute ago, none of us would be sitting here if it wasn't for any of that sacrifice. And I would even extend it to people that made those sacrifices here stateside in our own little genre that we got going on. Because there are some massive sacrifices that people make for people that are in sobriety. But, the military is definitely the highest thing that we have. I mean, none of us would be here, guys, honestly. There's no other way to say it.
Nope.
It's almost like we can't even say it enough because it's so important to all of us. And I know all of us kind of get it. But it's important to keep talking about it. Because what happens is if our generation kind of drops the ball on it, what happens? It just slowly starts to tail off and it becomes less important. You can take that to even the drug conversation, wasn't back in just for example, back in the 70s, the heroin crisis is what they were calling it. They were showing streets of New York, where out in L.A. they got Skid Row, Philadelphia's got Kensington, is what they call it. But these are like homeless areas, high drug usage. But back then, it was shocking to people to see on TV and news reports that people were laying in the street dying from heroin overdoses. But do you guys understand the number difference? In the 70s, they were talking about 7,000 people a year. We're talking over 100,000 people now a year. Yeah. 150. It's probably going to be 200. If you really were to apply the real numbers, it's probably more like 500,000, if not more.
It's incredible. So
just keep that in mind, guys. And anybody that's out there beating the streets for what we're talking about here, thank you. I mean, because you're making that sacrifice too. I take this down into like police, first responders, that kind of thing, because they're making a huge sacrifice too, guys. I seen a report in Seattle. They're actually a documentary. The police there are actually walking around, and they're not arresting people. They're giving them help. And we talk about that a lot, especially with like 12-step programs, because that gets forced onto people. So if you offer them help instead of making it a punishment, they're more likely to accept it and at least get that mindset that it's possible to get clean. And I want to
thank Seventh, because it'll scroll up and I'll forget. Thank you, Seventh. It's a great quote too. We make a living by what we get. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And I saw a comment from Cody that said, I can do it, but it only lasts about 2 weeks. The most important part of that phrase, Cody, is I can do it. If you get 14 days under your belt, right, I promise you can do it, right? That is, 2 weeks is the hardest part of that. That's scientific. That's not me. That's not Mark. That is a fact. The hardest part of what you're going through is the first 14 days. The question becomes, why is it after 14 days that you're slipping? And that's just what I was talking about when I said there are great relapses, right? If you can make it 2 weeks and you're doing that consistently, I don't know about you, man. I had thousands of relapse, literally thousands of them, until the last one. When you understand why you're relapsing, then you can stop the process. And if you were comfortable doing what you're doing, bud, you would not be here right now. I also saw one other comment, and I wish I could remember who it was from, but the number of people who sacrificed for us, who are addicted to drugs, is astounding. And this should really make perfect sense. Why are so many veterans addicted to drugs? Because drugs take away, right? We talk about this all of the time. Drugs don't give you anything, they take away. And we send these people off into the worst situations in the entire world, and they see things that they can't unsee. And they have, memories that are going to be with them and scar them for life. And when we bring them home, we go, how about a little Wellbutrin, a little Prozac? Would that help? Here, have some Prozac. Forget all of the sacrifice that you just went through. This Prozac ought to help. Well, you know what? Prozac is supposed to help people who are feeling a little depressed. A person that can't get imagery out of their head that is literally a nightmare, they're going to go to something a little harder than Prozac. And very oftentimes the coping mechanism for so many of our veterans becomes self-medication. And, the best we can hope for people is to pray for them if you believe in that. If you don't, maybe write some letters, because the VA needs to do a whole hell of a lot more. And then every time you get a chance where you meet one of those people, carry them to the lifeboat. Seriously, if you got to pick them up and carry them. Hey, would you like to go to dinner? I'm buying. I just want you to watch this show. There's a group of people out there that truthfully care about you. And I know that what you've been through, I've talked about this before, people. I'm no veteran. I'm a dirtbag. Veterans are heroes, right? But I spent about 10 years watching people get stabbed and killed. And you know what? It jacked me up. And it wasn't combat, but it certainly caused post-traumatic stress disorder. And I've used this, I've told this before many times. if you get two guys from the federal prison system together, it sounds like two veterans. A guy will go, "Oh, you were in the BOP? Yeah, where did you do your time?" And you say, "I was at Lewisburg," and they go, "Ooh, ugly. When were you there?" It sounds just like people saying, "Yeah, I was in Hanoi or I was in Da Nang," because that when you get people together who all suffered, right? That unity gets sort of built into you. I'm not proud of being in prison, people. I'm ashamed of being in prison. I really am. And I think very oftentimes veterans come back and they have every reason on the planet to be proud. And they have people who tell them that they should be proud, but in their head, they were killing people. I mean, they may have been doing it for the greatest cause in the world, right? The cause of freedom. But they were handed a gun and told to go shoot somebody that they've never seen before. And that leaves, nightmarish, hellish kind of scars. In the old days, when somebody came back from war, they had a term. They used to say someone was shell-shocked, right? Shell-shocked. You knew exactly what the hell that meant, right? That made perfect sense. They were shell-shocked. Yep. And they continued. There was a comedian that talked about this, but really not from a comedy standpoint. George Carlin did a routine on this, and he said that every time you add syllables, you try to make something a little bit more palatable. And the next phase was you had battle fatigue syndrome, right? And it just continued. And now we have post-traumatic stress disorder. Those people are still shell-shocked. You can call it whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, it's an acronym now. It's ridiculous.
What's that?
It's an acronym now.
It's an acronym now. Yeah, it's your true story, right? PTSD.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound all that bad.
Yeah.
But the number of our veterans who are addicted to drugs is astounding. Everybody can do their part. Seriously. And if we don't owe those people something, then we don't owe anybody anything. Right? Seriously. If we don't owe them, and I'm not trying to jump up on a soapbox, but I look at guys that throw a ball through a hoop, or a guy who runs down a sideline, and we pay him $125 million contracts, but we can't seem to give somebody enough money to go to the VA who literally watched his friends die for his country. There's something so incredibly messed up with how all of our culture treats its heroes. Because the heroes in this country wore olive drab camo. They didn't wear New York Giants jerseys. I mean, that's the truth. And we put people on pedestals that are odd at best. If you do come across somebody today, thank them. If you come across them tomorrow, thank them. Thank people for their service, because it is about as selfless as anything that anyone can do. And if it makes you feel a little guilty that maybe you weren't doing it, good, right? It should. Earn it. Earn the gift that other people gave you. And don't do it by jumping in a bottle, people. That's honestly, it's like urinating on their service. I did it. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm picking on me, because I did it for 3.5 decades. I honestly remember having a conversation with a guy about it once, where I said, I'm ashamed of what I did with the freedom that you earned me. And he was like, well, then knock it off. I wish I could tell you that I did. I wish I could tell you that was a big enough thing for me, but it wasn't. It was probably a decade or a decade and a half later that I knocked it off. But you know something? We do owe it to so many people other than ourselves, right? That whole you just got to do it for you thing. Go ahead.
And I use this only because this is a very popular movie, and it's something you guys can probably relate to, or at least understand what I'm saying. Forrest Gump. Look at Lieutenant Dan. The guy lost his legs, and I say that because it took somebody that wasn't all there, like Forrest Gump. They never said exactly what was wrong with him, but he was probably autistic or what have you. But at the same time, he said a line in there that a lot of people miss, and people remember it when you bring it up. But when he was with his wife Jenny, he wasn't his wife at the time. She goes to go upstairs, and he turns and looks at her, hands on his hips, and says, "I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is." Okay, so those are powerful lines if you really look at them and you really dig into what he was saying there. And that whole story itself brings it full circle to Lieutenant Dan lost his legs, and at the end of the show, he shows up to Forrest's wedding because of Forrest, how he helped him with legs. He had prosthetics and a wife. He even said, well, I'm sure we all know this, Lieutenant Dan, you got legs. He actually said that, right? So what I'm saying is that even though we think that it's the darkest thing, we think that it's this, we think that it's that, and our military gets forgotten, and it really does. And that's a movie that shows that, but it's also a movie that can show us how to not do that. And we can just take that all the way. I'm not just talking military either, guys. I hope you guys get that. It's just about anybody that's doing any kind of public service, but mainly military here. We get that, right? I just want to make sure you guys understand that. But
yeah, certainly today.
Yeah, it's today is a military thing for me in my mind and for most. I get it, and that's why we focus on that. But yeah, I just think it applies, guys. I'm a very analytical person. I'm not sure if you guys have picked up on that or not. But like if I watch a movie, I've done it so much. Like when me and my wife sit down and watch a show, she'll tell me, "Shut up, don't say nothing," because I can actually almost predict what's getting ready to happen. Because I pay attention to everything since I was a kid like that, and it's just some things are just so predictable if you know what you're looking at. And that tool that I have now, I call it a tool because it's helped me get sober. Because I'm able to look at myself and what I did in the past, and I can apply that. I can apply that analytical part of my brain to that, and it does help. So, but anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Just trying to get somebody another example of what, through a movie.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. She doesn't trust you. I don't know the circumstances, and I'm not asking you to share the circumstances with the entire world. But again, I'll use me as an example. Every time I lost trust with anybody that I cared about, I can truthfully say, for me, that they were never wrong. I had always done something to lose that trust. And we did a show about this a few shows back. When you start to erode the trust between you and somebody, right? There's a wall. It's like a bunch of bricks, right? And that is the trust wall. If you lean on it, it will crumble, collapse, and fall down instantly. To rebuild it, you got to do it brick by brick. You can't just pick it up, set it back up. If it's bugging you, it should be, right? Honestly, if it wasn't bugging you, then you probably aren't the person I thought you were. But you're going to have to earn back that trust, and you're going to have to earn it back over a long period of time. And the way you do that is, number one, whatever it is you did, don't do it anymore, obviously. And have your word be your bond. Do what you say you're going to do, and show a willingness to become better, right? People will put up with so much if they believe you are struggling to become a better person, right? Truthfully. And we know each other, all of us, because we show up once a day and we text one another. And we really do get a pretty good idea of who we all are because we share so much, right? But all due respect, brother, just shooting from the hip, right? You're really a different cat when you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right? You're a much different cat when you're doing everything right. And that's not unique to you. That's everybody. When we're doing anything like that, we're not the people that we're meant to be. We're not. And if we were, we could be out doing normal things in the air quotes normal world right now, right? Drugs and alcohol do things to us that they don't do to other people. For real. It's pretty simple and pretty cut and dry, right?
Yep.
But they do really different things to us than they do to other people. I went and met with somebody today, and I know that he chewed a handful of Loratab while I was there. It's not an issue in his life. In the whole time I've known the guy, I've never seen him do it. And his pupils are never pinned. I'm not somebody that you were sliding these things by. Right. I was shocked. Now, he said later on he's having some pretty serious problems with his teeth, right? He's getting ready to get some work done. However, chewing pain pills is a pretty uniquely drug addicted thing, right?
Especially
Or
if
at
you,
least somebody that
especially if you
is
have something
not
to
a
deal with your
stranger
teeth.
to opiates, right? You chew those puppies up for a reason, right? Because they hit you about 30 minutes quicker.
Yep.
However, this is not something running this guy's life. And it occurred to me as I watched it that there are those people. You know, there are people in this world who could take the drugs that I couldn't. There's tons of them. I'm not one of them. And if you're one of those people who acts differently, right, when they drink or when they drug, stop it. Right? You're not going to fix the behavior while you're under the influence. There is no magic wand that we're going to go, wow, now you can go get wasted and act like a normal person. It's never going to happen. Right? Call it a predisposition, call it something that you developed, whatever it is, you're not like other people. Right. So you want to build that trust back, do it sober. And it's going to take a lot longer to build back than it took to lose.
Let me say this too real quick to add exactly, you said that very well, by the way. Brandon, I suggest this to everybody. You know, you go over, when you're talking to people that you love, you're around when you're doing bad things, right? Make sure you're there when you're doing the good things. Let her see that, because that's so much more powerful than just you telling her, hey, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. Doing the right thing. You can say it all day long, and because we were liars, ain't nobody going to ever grab a hold of that. You're going to have to show her. That's just all. I mean, that's just that simple, I guess. That's really all I want to say to that.
No, and you're right. You're right. It's actions. It's not word. It's not words. By the way, I think it's Nika. Do you say Nika?
Yeah,
Nika.
Okay. I think. Yeah.
This is advice that I give all the time, and maybe you've heard it, and maybe you haven't. But you're struggling with loss of mom. She said that her mother lost her mental capacities before she lost her life, and that she really wasn't there for her the way she should have been, probably because of the same affliction that we all have, right? Because she was under the influence. But if you cannot, apologize to someone who is still here, you can still make that apology, right? We give the advice out a lot. Please write her a letter, right? Write her a letter and say everything that you wish that you could say. It's cathartic for you. I promise you it is. And anybody else on the boat that has done this will tell you it does beautiful things. I write letters to dead people so often you have no idea, to people who have passed. And it's, my beliefs are different than other people's. I truthfully believe that the people are hearing what I write. Doesn't matter if they do or not, because the letter is for me. It's not for them. But really cathartic, really healing. It's something that if you're struggling with this, any people, and this across the board, if you're struggling with something, right, do something about it. Even if it sounds silly at first or whatever, we're addicts. If we suffer with something and we don't do anything about it, guess what's coming? Guess what's coming? Relapse. Right? If we do not work through, Mark said something earlier. He said, this is how you assemble a toolbox, right? Relapses, all of those things. This is what we do to assemble the tools that keep us sober. And if you're struggling with something, it's going to lead you to a relapse. It's going to lead you to misery, heartache, all of it. The act of working through something, that's a term that, it's almost new agey these days, but for the love of God, it's the perfect term. You work through it. When you work through it, you put it away. If you don't work through it, it works on you, and it will continue to work on you until you find a way to make it stop. You're either going to work through it or you're going to drug it.
Yes.
I mean, that really is the only option. So I would recommend writing a letter. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just, again, you're right on point, Tommy. I mean, and again, guys, I know that we're not all big bunches of roses tonight, but you know what?
A lot of fun.
It's still a lot of truth going on here. And that's what I'm trying to say. And I do appreciate you guys sharing in the chat. I will say that first and foremost, because it's not easy, and you don't have to. That makes it a choice for you. And the fact that you chose to do that lets everybody that's in here reading and seeing that you at least have a little bit there that you want to get sober or what have you. There's something there something's picking at you. Those of us that are Christians would probably call that the Holy Spirit saying, "Hey, wake up, stupid." You know what I mean? But that's a Christianity thing. I'm not trying to bring that into it. It's just the only way only way I could articulate that. But it's true. If it's picking at you like that, figure out why it's picking. And if it ends up being nothing, okay. But at least you know, right?
Well, and Nika did say, you know what, I did that. It really helped. I love hearing that.
Yep, that's
I
awesome.
really love hearing that. Yep, I love hearing that. I continue to do it, Nick. I do it all the time. If I begin to get back onto that side, if I feel like, because that is for me anyway, that's the process of working through stuff, especially if the person isn't here to talk to. Well, you know who comes to mind. But I write her letters pretty routinely because there are times that I think I've worked through it and then it pops back up, and I'll jot her another letter. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll stop. But in the meantime, I'm certainly not going to let it work on me. So I'm going to continue to try to work through it. All right, people, we're at the top of the hour. Happy Memorial Day. All right. Maybe we didn't get that. Didn't get that across today. But a happy Memorial Day to all of you as you're enjoying the hot dogs and hamburgers and American flags. Tell the people that you care about that you love them. So it's a really important thing.
I didn't know it was actually Jesse brought this up. It's actually Memorial Day in Australia right now, and it's not for us till tomorrow. So there's like one day off. I didn't know that. Just kind of a trivial thing there. I just thought it was kind of neat.
I did not know that either. And you know what? Over the weekend, I spoke to a couple of Aussies. I didn't come up with either of them. That's odd. People, I will be back 23 hours from right now with my partner and my cat. Yep. And we'll be doing what we do. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. And you know what? If they wore a uniform at one time, try a little harder. Right? So they're worth it. They earned it. Huh? Okay. I am Captain Tommy Scoble, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
And that is a cat in a basket. Can you see that foot? Look at that thing hanging out there. It's got the head right on top of it. All righty, people. We love you. Good night.